All right, so this is Outline of a Murder, the Smart True Crime podcast, where we go into the why behind the crime. I am your host, Sherry Wilson, and with me is a woman who likes her wine so sweet, even sugar ants are put to shame. Mom.
Well, I do like my wine, and I do like it sweet. But one of us does not, and if I had a comeback as good as yours, I would say it, but I don't.
Well,
So,
not everyone can be as witty.
I wish Stephen or Mike was here because I'm sure they would think of something.
Probably so.
But we're
you do
trying-
have to admit that you do like it
Yeah,
sweet.
because I don't drink alcohol a lot.
Right.
So I'm venturing out with the wine.
And today we've got some Stella Rosa green apple. I'd like you to go ahead and take a taste and see
I
what you
will.
think.
It's pretty good.
That's not bad.
It isn't my favorite, but it's pretty good.
That's not bad at all.
It's not
Okay.
real strong apple.
No, it's like green apple. It has just a hint. And like we said in episode 1, my sister, who is a wine snob, would probably be horrified.
Yes.
But Stella Rosa is really good, and it's won a lot of awards, and I really like that. I think black, I would give, you know what? I think I'm going to have to change my rating to 4.75, and I really like this. I may have to do the same rating.
Stella Rose was the black. I gave it a 4.5. The viewers can try it. It's really good, but you have to like sweet wine.
I like it. I think I'm going to have to give it a 5, actually.
Really?
I like this better
no,
than black.
I'm not giving it a 5.
Okay.
I'm going to say 3.5. I'm telling you.
Well,
Would you like mine?
no. Oh, you don't want it? No. Absolutely. I'll drink it. Okay. If you have a wine to suggest, please do so at our website, and you can contribute to our wine fund.
When suburban mother Kelley Clayton was found murdered in her home, residents in her small upstate New York town were shocked. She seemed to have the perfect life, a happy marriage, and no enemies. But investigators soon found that things were not as they appeared. Here's ABC's Ryan Smith.
Trying not to step on anything. Okay, clear. Let's get the hell off this. Downstairs? Yeah.
It was a scene that seemed too horrific to be real.
Yeah, there's blood all over.
Cam footage showing 2 police officers responding to a frantic 911 call just after midnight in September of 2015.
Looks like blood spatter, blood on the wall.
The victim, 35-year-old Kelley Clayton, a beautiful wife and loving mother of 2 small children.
She's gonna be beat to death. I'll show you where stuff is. Yeah. Just watch the floor. There's blood there, there's blood up there.
Bludgeoned to death in her own home.
Help me, my wife. She's dead. Hurry.
Kelley's husband, Thomas, called 911 after returning home from a poker game, finding her body on the kitchen floor.
How long has she been down? I don't know. I just got home.
Okay, come on out here, man. Come on out here. I want you to have a seat. You don't need to see that anymore, okay?
Outside his home, police tried to calm him.
How you doing? Just take some deep breaths, okay? I know, yeah. Just take some deep breaths and stuff. Just try to stay calm.
Pass out.
Well, sit down then. Come on over here and sit down.
I'm shaking.
While inside, investigators begin piecing together what happened and trying to make sense of a seemingly senseless murder, rocking a small town in upstate New York. Kelley was born and raised in Elmira, athletic and popular. She was always under the watchful eye of her older sister, Kim.
She was kind of my baby.
You were protective of her.
Very.
What was she like?
Vivacious, bold, sassy.
Her big personality and dreams taking her from Elmira to Las Vegas, trading a teaching job for work as a cocktail waitress.
She loved it out there. She loved it.
But it was her attraction to a local sports star that would bring her back home.
You're so mad. You just want to, you want to drop your guards. You want to fight someone. Just like when you're a little kid and you get so mad, you just want to fight.
A hockey player for the semi-pro Elmira Jackals, Tom Clayton, known for fighting on the ice and flirting off of it.
So he was like a bad boy.
Yes.
Kelley's friend Andrea Spivak worked at the bar where the hockey team hung out.
Kelley turned heads.
And was it love at first sight?
I think so. I thought so.
Kelley moved back home to New York, and Tom put his pro hockey dreams on ice, both giving up their big plans for something bigger.
She was so happy to be marrying him.
They got married.
Let's get you dressed.
And had 2 children. Their first, Charlie, a girl.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And a few years later, a boy, Cullen.
They seem like the perfect family.
She loved her kids. She loved her husband. She loved her life, the life that she thought she had. I cannot sit here and tell you that I saw anything that would have led me to believe he was capable of what happened to my sister.
He called the deceased sister and brother-in-law.
I remember running to the ambulance expecting to find them working on my sister. And I'm like, is my sister in there? Where's my sister? Where's my sister? My mother and I were wailing. I was throwing up on the side of the road. I can't even explain to you that feeling.
The savage brutality, shocking even to the first responders.
Her face is complete, yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Blood all over, and looks like she was attacked in bed.
This was an extremely brutal attack, a very gruesome situation.
Donald Lewis, the Steuben County Sheriff's Office lead investigator, was on the scene that night.
There was some sort of attack in the upstairs area. There was a hole in the sheetrock at the bottom of the stairs and a blood trail that ended at Mrs. Clayton's body in the kitchen area. She was killed with a fiberglass maul handle.
Okay, so we're going to dive right into the case of Kelley Clayton. And this case is scary because I always try to have, cases where there's red flags. I hunted and hunted and hunted for red flags.
That's unusual.
Yes.
I haven't heard of this case, and I've been watching true crime for years and years, and I haven't heard of this one.
Yeah, and there's a couple things that I could probably suggest for people that know someone that maybe they have an idea something's off, but really there was nothing to give her any warning whatsoever about what was going to happen.
Not one? Mm-mm. There has to be one.
Mm-mm.
No?
I couldn't find a single one. And it also makes me mad, which you're going to see why later. But it's in the town of Clayton in New York. And I went to their website, and you can see from the pictures, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's a little bitty community, but I mean, look at that. That is so,
is that the
so
house?
Pretty. No, that's just one of the pictures of the city itself.
The viewers should go on the website and look at this area.
Yeah.
It looks like it's an upper scale neighborhood.
It is. And Kelley, it sounds like she, I guess, was maybe raised there, or at least had lived there for a long time because her sister lives there as well. But it's the kind of place that, well, first of all, their website could use a little bit of help. Because I'm a website designer. Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you guys could definitely use some help. It was kind of too busy and stuff. So if anybody from Clayton, New York is hearing this, please do something about your website. But I did find some pictures of the area. It looks really pretty. It has rolling hills, lots of trees, some lakes. It only has 2,100 residents.
Unique housing, too. I love that house.
Mm-hmm. So it's a very, very small town. It's a great place to raise a family. It's part of Steuben County. And so when you research this case, that's what comes up is Clayton. It's kind of like, the Chris Watts case where you have something so horrific happen in a town, that town is now forever tied to that case, like Emmetsville.
That's what they're known for.
Yeah. So when you Google or when you do a search, it brings up Kelley Clayton.
It brings the worst.
Yeah.
Is it low crime?
It is. It is. It's a great place to raise a family. It's gorgeous. Well, that all changed September 29th, 2015.
Not long ago.
No. And it was a little after midnight, and police received a 911 call from Thomas Clayton. So this is the husband, Kelley's husband. He had just gotten home from a poker game. He had a weekly poker game with some friends, and he found his wife's body on the kitchen floor. Okay? And it was absolutely brutal. And we'll get into some of the details. I don't want to go too deep because it's disturbing.
It sounds familiar, but they've had a couple cases like that when someone's come from poker or from basketball, so I might be confused. I'm not sure.
So this is part of the 911 call, and I want to play it, and then I want you to tell me what you think about the call itself.
Bludgeoned to death in her own home.
Help me, my wife. She's dead. Hurry.
Kelley's husband, Thomas, called.
So what'd you...
Well, to me, he sounded like an actor, but I don't know if that's me because I've seen so many of these or because he really did.
Let me play it again.
Bludgeoned to death in her own home.
Help me, my wife. She's dead. Hurry.
So when I hear that call...
Help me.
Help me.
Help me.
So it's like, help me, my wife's dead, hurry. Like, there's not...
Like you're reading a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
It doesn't...
Yeah.
Like, there's no emotion, no panic, no nothing in that.
But there have been cases where people actually were innocent that
Yes.
have no emotion.
Yes.
And the police, tunnel vision again, like we talked about, goes straight to that. I've heard so many times they say, well, he had no emotion or she had no emotion.
Yes.
That
In
doesn't
fact,
always mean anything.
There's one case where a man, I wish I could remember the name, but it was on First Degree with Billy Jensen and the, gosh, I can't remember the two ladies. It's a fabulous podcast. But they had the daughter, First Degree, who is it? Anyway, they had the daughter on there, and her dad was arrested for killing her mother. The problem was the mother had pulled a gun and was going to shoot him. He fought her, and actually it went off and killed her. And I truly believe this man is innocent. But he didn't show emotion. And so that got the cops fixated on him. And so you're right, but it just sounds a little bit weird. It sounds a little bit fake, okay? So we'll go with that. Whether he did or not, we'll find out at the end of the podcast.
I know an officer detective / and I won't tell his name, but he had said that sometimes, when you focus on one person, not him, of course, but police can make evident, not make it, but
kind of like
guide it towards that person.
Yeah.
Little bitty things.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you wonder, I'll watch a show and think, he did not do that.
Yes. I used to want to be a detective, but I think I would probably be one of those that would immediately be like, you sound weird. You must be guilty. You know what I mean? Like, I would probably be the one that maybe wouldn't be objective.
You didn't cry enough.
Yeah.
You had no emotion. You got married 2 weeks later. That doesn't make you guilty. It just makes you...
Suspect. Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So she had been bludgeoned to death, as the video said, and it was horrific. Blood was everywhere. The attack was extremely brutal. And what makes it worse is that Kelley's daughter, 7-year-old Charlie, was a witness to the crime.
Oh, no. I hate when kids or anyone dies, but when kids are there.
Yeah. The 3-year-old son, Colin, was also home, but he did not witness the crime. He was in his room. Thomas told the 911 operator that he was going to take the kids to the neighbor. He'd be right back. When officers arrived on the scene, they found Thomas lying on the ground in almost a fetal position inside the house.
Remember Bonnie last night that we did? That young man was 3. And it's affected him his whole life, and he's in his late 20s.
Yeah.
And that's a 7-year-old.
Yes. Kim recalls, now this is the sister, she arrived, her name is Kim Bourgeois, I think. Her and her mom arrived on the scene, but one source said it was Kim and her husband, so I couldn't verify if it was her and her husband or her and her mother. Kim said that she always kept a watchful eye on her little sister. She said we were 10 years apart, which I thought was interesting. So she was kind of my baby. I'm protective of her. Kelley was very brave to me, bold, sassy. She liked to dance. She was pretty. She could model. And I just think that that's what she wanted to do. So Kim recalls that when she arrived at the scene, Kim was asked if she knew if Kelley had dental records. That's how bad her face. Yeah, they couldn't even recognize if it was her. And
well, if someone would have asked me that, I'd immediately thought, well, first of all, she's dead.
Yes.
and second, burned, unrecognizable, something.
Yes.
Oh,
and
that's
it upset her
terrible.
so much that she ran to the side of the house and threw up on the side of the house.
Oh.
That's how much it impacted her. She said that it's impossible to describe that feeling. It seems that the damage to Kelley's face and it was so severe that they were going to need to identify her that way.
So she was facing whoever assaulted her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it gets worse.
Oh.
Yeah, because it all becomes clear later how brutal it was. Now, the question is, how does a 35-year-old, beautiful, sassy mother of two end up bludgeoned to death in her kitchen in a town of 2,100 people in New York? To figure things out, we need to go back just a little bit.
Was she murdered at night or in the day or at night?
Yeah. Her husband got home a little after 12 from the poker game. So it was some time between when he left and when he came back. She was killed.
And how many hours is that?
I'm not sure. I might get to it later in my script, but she definitely had been several hours. Yeah, I think he went either at 7 or at 8, but I'd have to verify that.
7-year-old is walking around her mother, who's deceased.
Mm-hmm. Yes, she witnessed all of it.
5 hours.
She witnessed all of it.
That's terrible.
So Kelley, let me pull up some pictures of her so you can see. This is her right here with her sister and her mom. So there's her sister. She was absolutely gorgeous.
Beautiful. These are all on the website also. Oh, she's beautiful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I mean, you could tell she probably was sassy. And there's her husband Thomas and the two little, the little girl and then the little boy. And this was taken not long, this picture, before she was killed. And I think I've got some more. Yeah. So, and that's the little girl right there.
Oh, that's terrible.
In the research I did, she seemed like an outgoing, go-getter, let's make life great type of person. She was very positive. She was an honor roll student, cheerleader, softball. She loved that. She was originally from Elmira, New York, a city of 29,000, but she left her teaching job at the age of, in her early 20s to pursue modeling in Las Vegas, Nevada. She got a job as a cocktail waitress and absolutely loved it. She was spunky, full of energy, and her sister said that one time she wore this big 30-pound feather headdress and absolutely loved it.
Well, it's Las Vegas.
Yes. So she was definitely an extrovert.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely had a great time. And it appears in 2005, Kelley, Kim, and their mom went to a hockey game where she met Thomas Clayton, a semi-pro hockey player for the Elmira Jackals, who is also from upstate New York, and he played for Kelley's hometown team.
Oh, he was a hockey player.
Yes, yes.
She would be attracted to that?
Yes. And she was smitten. She caught him, playing, and she's like, I like this guy. And she moved back home 2 years later to Elmira, where the two were married, and eventually they had the two children, and she was always at his games cheering him on.
So they probably dated about 2 years?
Probably. Yeah. It's not like a normal courtship, a normal, time, like we talked about in episode 1. If it goes too fast, there might be some red flags there.
Well, I don't know if it's normal these days.
True. But for them,
yes, it was normal.
It was a very normal courtship. They made a very handsome couple, as you can see. Thomas Clayton is well built with dark hair. He was sometimes clean shaven. Sometimes he had a shadow or a full beard. He just, quite frankly, looked good no matter what. He's a very handsome man. He played hockey for 4 seasons. He did want to go pro, but he didn't.
Could he have?
I don't know.
If he was good enough.
I'm not sure, because he eventually ended up retiring. So it makes me wonder if he just didn't, have the skill that was needed to go professional.
Right.
He was known for fighting on the ice and flirting off of it.
Oh, no.
Yes, so there was some flirting there, and we'll get into maybe that might be a possible red flag later in this case, but it was just so innocent looking, she didn't see it. He was scrappy, tough, and dead set on winning. One person said that he would do whatever it took to win. Now, that to me is a red flag, actually, because
big ego.
Yes, because I like competition. My personality, I like competition. I like winning, but not at someone else's expense. And just being dead set on winning. It just seems like sometimes people that are involved in cases like these, especially intimate partner homicide, it just seems that they're very egotistical, narcissistic at times, sometimes psychopathic, low empathy, but they're extremely competitive. Like when they start having a rough time in marriage, it's no longer like, let's work this out. It's, I'm going to win. And if you don't let me, I'm going to make you pay for it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. I knew somebody that winning was so important. Candy Crush with a child had to win.
Yes.
I'm like, wow.
Yes.
I mean,
let the kid win. But I used to be like that too.
You would, on your son, you would
little
not
kids
let him.
They need to figure out,
win?
they don't always win. Not everybody gets a trophy.
Well, not when they're 3 or 4.
No, he was like 6.
Well, 6. Oh my God, my poor grandson. Oh.
Now, Kelley's sister Kim said that people were in awe of him because he was, quote, cute, and he was an instigator, and he would start fights, which makes sense. Hockey is a very physical game. So, again, that probably wasn't a red flag.
So he starts it outside of the hockey ring?
No, it seems like he did regulate it to the hockey ring.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think they all fight,
yes,
don't they?
that's part of it, it seems.
But on the outside, after the hockey, that'd be a flag.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find a flag because you said you didn't see any.
I didn't.
So I'm grasping at anything.
Yes, you are grasping for flags.
I am.
Yes, but so far there's no flags. Okay. The ones you're grasping for are imaginary.
Yeah, they are. So far.
He was very affectionate and loving toward Kelley, according to friends and family.
That's
in
good.
fact, Kim asked Kelley at one time, because again, he treated her very well, but the flirting bothered her. As a big sister, she'd be like, this flirting kind of bothers me. And she asked, are you sure he's not sleeping around because he flirted so much? And Kelley assured her that he was all talk and he would never do that to her. She was very happily married. She was very happily married, happy with her children, all that.
And he appeared to be also.
Yes. Yeah, he was very attentive. After retiring, he started Paul Davis Emergency Services of the Southern Tier, which was basically a fire and water damage restoration franchise. He later became a partner in ServPro.
Oh.
Yeah, similar
Successful.
franchise. Yeah, and that was with his friend Brian Lang. Kelley worked at the Woodhouse Stadium Grill in Corning, which wasn't very far away from where they lived in Cayton. And they were just basically this busy family of 4.
And you said her family's from there.
Yes,
so
they're from that area.
By.
Elmira.
And was his there?
I don't know. I think he was, I think he was raised in upstate New York as well, but I don't think it was the same town.
Okay. So family dynamic, in-laws,
everything's
the whole family,
great.
Everybody's there.
Yeah. Okay. Every Monday night, Thomas played poker with some friends. He left his home around 7:30. He drove 10 minutes to his poker game, and Kelley's last text was to a friend at 10:21. Clayton was at the game until 12:20 a.m. He got home around 12:30. He placed a 911 call at 12:34, which I could see that because he goes in, everything's probably dark, or maybe he sees that something's a little bit off, which is a very surreal feeling. Like when I was a kid, we had come home from vacation and our house had been broken into and the TV was missing and the VCR and all that. And it felt like an invasion, like you didn't feel safe anymore in your home, but it was surreal. Like your brain couldn't, like, wait, where's the TV? Like it was just very.
Exactly. I know exactly.
And it felt weird, And so that's probably.
Like, are you seeing what you're seeing?
And not only that, but I think violence is also felt. It's not just seen.
Oh, I do too.
Like just the atmosphere. There's violence that's occurred. And so it probably feels weird.
Yeah, like you feel when you feel in danger.
Yeah.
Or you get a vibe from someone.
Yes.
I agree.
Donald Lewis, an investigator with the Steuben County Sheriff's Office said that it was, quote, an extremely brutal attack, a very gruesome situation. It appears that the attack started in her bedroom where Kelley was sleeping. Someone struck her twice with a fiberglass maul, which is like a sledgehammer.
Oh.
Yeah. Kelley fought him off and ran out of the room in an attempt to protect her children.
Do we know yet if the doors were unlocked, if there's alarm system, anything?
I don't know. I think it's later on in my notes.
Okay.
She first ran down the hall to her daughter's room because she was probably wanting to go and protect them.
Instinct.
She knocked a picture off of the wall in the process, but then she turned back, and I think she probably realized that she was leading the killer to her kids. So she turned and ran the other way, which is very, very sad. She fell down the stairs because, she's been hit in the head.
Right.
She fell down the stairs, and then she smashed into the wall on the landing, and she left a hole in the sheetrock. So that's pretty hard.
Oh, that's a hard...
Yeah.
Oh.
At the bottom of the stairs, along with a blood trail that went all the way down. Police said that blood was everywhere from the bedroom, down the hall, and into the dining room, and finally the kitchen, where she just could not run anymore. She ran out of steam. The assailant caught up with her in the kitchen. He beat her in the head and face, killing her. The children were not hurt. Nothing was stolen. Again, that's a telltale. If there's nothing stolen, the only purpose for that intruder was to kill whoever he went in there or she went in there to kill.
And we're not saying it's the husband,
right?
But it was someone that knew her. It had to be.
Yeah, it was a totally different man. So obviously they knew Kelley was a target because the kids were alive. Kelley was the only one that was dead. There was no sexual assault. So either...
Nothing taken.
Yeah, nothing taken. So either he didn't know the kids would be there and he didn't want to do a sexual assault with the kids, or that was not the reason he was there. It was solely to kill her. So we've got a stranger on stranger killing at this point because they pretty much know it wasn't Thomas because all of his friends told them he was with us during the poker game.
And I wouldn't think it was him either, because if he was a good father and there was no signs, he would not hire someone or even murder his wife with his kids there. I wouldn't think.
Right. Yes, you would not think that would be the case. However, a lot of the true crime we've watched, they will sometimes do that. BTK killed
the kids,
children and moms in front of their kids. So
yeah,
this scene shocked everyone, even the first responders. So remember, it's a small town, 2,100 people. They go in here. But here's what's interesting. The first responders said it looked like a domestic violence scene.
Why do you say that?
Well, just... Number one, all the blood, how I guess far the crime scene traveled through the house. But it just, to them, it looked like that.
But if someone broke in, they would chase you because the object is to kill you.
And I wondered if maybe it looked more like a domestic violence scene because let's say that you're the killer, you go into the house and you think you're going to have an easy target. He hit her so hard it should have killed her in her room, but she fought back, right? Because she's a mama, so she's going to take care of her babies. For some killers, it's too much trouble, and they would flee.
They leave. Yeah, you're right. That's true.
He didn't, and so I wondered if maybe that's why they thought it looked like a domestic violence.
Or you wouldn't leave if you didn't have a mask on.
True.
Or covered your face. True. Because you think, it's going to take one hit and she'll be gone, 2 at the most.
Right. Yeah. I thought that was interesting. And then what makes it worse is Charlie, Kelley's 7-year-old daughter, told the police that there was a robber in their house. She saw her mother being viciously attacked, and her mother told her to run. Isn't that sad?
That's very sad.
She said that, quote, a man was hurting mommy and kept hitting her with a pipe thingy. There was blood even on her door, the little girl's door. She said, I saw the robber hitting her until she was on the ground. She was sort of suffering, and then I hugged her leg.
Oh, that's terrible.
So she hugged her, and then she ran back upstairs, the little girl, to check on the younger brother.
It's probably not, but I was thinking back to what we said about the robbery. in this case, it took so long and she put up with such a fight, he may not have wanted to, and the kids were up, or the oldest, to grab anything if it was a robbery.
That's true, because now you've got the kids.
Yes, you just get out of there.
The whole thing is not what you expected.
No, I don't know about this case, but I'm just saying that
I
could
could
be.
see that. That's a good point. She checked on the younger brother, and she told police what the assailant was wearing, and that he was the size of my dad, and that his eyes were the same.
Oh, my.
But they know it wasn't him. He was at the poker game. Sheriff Jim...
How many was playing poker? How many of them?
Ooh, I don't remember. I know it was several. It was a husband and a wife, him, and I think maybe 2 or 3 more people.
Okay.
Like a typical. It's a typical size.
Right.
By the way...
Yes?
I was very good at poker.
Well, by the way...
When I was younger.
So was I, and I still am.
Well...
We may have to get the cards out.
I don't even remember how to play it now.
Oh, well, there you go.
Sheriff Jim Allard spoke to Charlie soon after the murder, and he told 2020 everything was just like Daddy. That's what she kept saying. Every question I asked her related back to Daddy. And then she looks at me. She goes, but it couldn't have been Daddy because who would take care of us?
Do you think is he credible? Who was this?
This was a sheriff.
Sheriff?
So
yeah, why would he lie?
Right.
I mean, right.
Well,
I mean, they do.
But
right.
I mean, I love law enforcement, but yes.
Yeah. So,
And an eyewitness, Tom and Kelley Clayton's 7-year-old daughter, Charlie.
She told me that a man was hurting Mommy, and she kept saying he did this and he did that, and so finally I said, how do you know it's a he? And she said, because his eyes look just like Daddy's. And that was a chilling moment for me.
A few hours later, Sheriff Jim Allard brings Charlie here. You're looking at a different kind of interrogation room. Still small, but soft seating, and on the table, toys.
Well, Charlie, do you know why we brought you here today? Okay, we're going to have to talk a little bit about last night, okay?
In this video 2020 obtained from authorities after it was played in open court, Charlie describes to investigators what she saw.
Does you know what the truth and a lie is? What's the truth? It means it really happened and a lie is that it didn't happen. Right, very good. So what happens if you tell a lie?
Establishing that the child knows right from wrong, knows the difference between a truth and a lie, knows that there's consequences to not telling the truth.
Then, in a matter-of-fact manner, still unaware her mom has died, she offers details of the attack.
In the middle of the night, this guy came and started hitting my mom with like this pipe thingy.
Can you tell me more about that?
There was blood everywhere. On my door, on the floor, not on the carpet though.
What did you hear?
Like, my mom ran to the door screaming, Charlie, 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 Charlie.
Run, Charlie, run. Those were the last words she heard from her mother.
Do you know what I found interesting? If you looked at Charlie, not that it means anything at all, but she was sitting there leaned over like she was telling you about a movie she saw on TV.
Yes.
And a lot of the kids we see, they're fidgety, they draw pictures, they don't want to talk about it, and she just...
She was, to me, very articulate.
Very brave.
And calm.
Yeah, she was calm.
Of course, she didn't know her mom was gone.
Oh.
And at that time, and I'm sure being a child, how do you even process or start to process it? But she is definitely brave. Mm-hmm. She's very articulate. And she really did kind of get the police wondering, okay, was the husband involved? I think the reason she said he had eyes like my dad's is I think that, you know, they looked like man eyes. Like,
or the color.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't think it was like their dad's eyes. I think just they're manly, or like you said, the color or maybe the shape was similar. Later, they discovered that Charlie ran behind her mother while she was being attacked. And she witnessed the entire murder. She was screaming for her mom, and Kelley was screaming for her to run. Sheriff Lewis said that there were lots of red flags from the beginning that pointed to Thomas, which will break down 3 of those. The first one there were no signs of forced entry or robbery. Even though Thomas was at a poker game and his GPS placed him there, police could tell that Kelley did not let her kill her in because she was asleep. That's where the attack started.
But not that I'm siding with anybody, but there are times people have left windows open, screen doors open. I mean, it could be anything. Just because they get in doesn't mean.
Well, here's what they found out, though. So there were no broken windows, no forced open doors. The killer had to have a key because it was locked.
Oh.
But the police, what they did discover is that the garage door was unlocked. And opening that did require a key because they always locked the garage door. So what that means is the killer from what they could tell, went through the garage door, which they always locked.
And they could have forgot when he left.
Maybe. The second one was while at the poker game, Thomas used his phone several times to check social media. But at 10:53, Thomas asked to borrow the host's wife's phone to make a call instead of using his own phone.
That's sort of odd.
He said that he was calling a worker and he claimed to have left his phone in the truck. So he went into the adjacent hallway, placed a call to a man named Michael Beard. We'll get into that later. They engaged in a hushed conversation. Then Thomas deleted the call before returning it. But the lady knew he had his phone because she had been watching. Yes.
You know, I remember this case now.
And then number 3, he wasn't in the game that night. Like, he was usually spunky, a better player, but not that night, according to the host. However, when police came to interview the hosts, which were Gregory and Linda Miller, they told the police there was no way Tom did it. They were looking at the wrong guy. There was no way.
Well, you said there were no red flags.
No red flags.
There is a lot now.
He was very attentive, very good husband, very good father, and they're like, there is no way you're barking up the wrong tree. However, they found even more red flags later that no one saw. A year before his wife's murder, Thomas Clayton doubled his wife's life insurance policy.
Another red flag.
Yes, that is so important. You know, I've been married. It'll be 30 years in March. I would never suspect Mike of ever killing me.
No.
But I remember one time we had life insurance. I'm all
suspicious.
You know, is mine worth more than yours? You know, like, check that stuff out.
But sometimes you don't know. There's a lot of cases where the husband's forged the signature.
Yes.
Because back in the day, when I had life insurance, you didn't have to have the spouse there to sign. You could take the papers home and have them sign.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't know.
Yeah.
And who thinks of life insurance?
Yeah.
When there's no red flags.
And I think that life insurance salespeople, if a husband comes in to double the wife's insurance, or if a wife comes in to double the husband's or the children, whatever, I think that would warrant a phone call to the spouse, right? The other spouse, to say, hey, did you give permission to double the insurance policy? Because that's important. If the other spouse did not give permission, then something's weird.
There's more safeguards now, I think. I think now you have to have the person there to sign. Like you did at the bank. Because even bank, you could close your spouse's banking account.
This was 2015, though.
Oh.
Like, it wasn't that... I mean, it's 6 years, though, I guess. So, but still, I think that would be something that would be very beneficial if insurance agents would notify the other party.
I do, too.
The other thing is he was having numerous affairs.
I'm not surprised at that.
He wanted out of the marriage, but he didn't think divorce was an option because Kelley would, quote, take everything from me. Here's what's frustrating about this is it was a tiny, tiny town. No one knew about the affairs. Give me a break, which we'll get into in a second.
Probably his friends.
Someone had to know.
And what? So is he saying she'll take everything, like probably money?
Yep, money,
and the
property.
House. I'm pretty positive it probably didn't include the kids.
Because he's basically a poop bird.
Yeah, he is.
And he sounds very greedy. And remember, winning is everything.
Child support.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then phone records shows a lot of calls and texts between Thomas and the Michael Beard guy. And not just during the poker game, which roused their suspicion against Michael Beard, but also before that. So they decided to go ahead and pick up Michael for questioning.
You know what's strange, though? I'm thinking she saw him check his social media. But why? If you're going to call home or check on someone, you wouldn't do it in somebody's bedroom where their phone was and then whisper. You'd be like, hey, how's the kids? Or, I mean, that doesn't even make sense. Because you said he was checking home, right? Checking on...
Well, no, he was just checking his social media. He wasn't checking on home.
When he went in and used the host's phone.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He was calling home to check.
No, he called Michael Beard.
Well, I know that reality, but, I mean, who did he say he was calling?
Let's see.
Did you say? You might not have said.
Yes. He said he was calling a worker and claimed to have left his phone in his truck. So he said he was calling a worker, and it was Michael Beard.
That's just something else. That's a good choice of words, right? Worker.
Mm-hmm. Michael Beard was a former employee of one of Thomas's companies, and he lived in one of the apartments that Thomas and Kelley owned. It appears that both Thomas and Kelley used the extra money they'd earned from their two jobs to buy multi-unit properties to rent out. Beard knew Thomas since his early days when he was a hockey player, so there was definitely some history. But at the time of the murder, he had been fired by Brian. Remember, that was Thomas's business partner. And he was, and then Thomas was in the process of evicting him at the time of the murder. Some sources say that he gave him a lot of leniency, which people really questioned that.
Well, they were friends. They worked together.
It wasn't like they were actually friends, though, and they knew each other, but it didn't sound like they were really good friends. But everybody said they had this weird relationship.
Wonder why he was fired. Do you know? Violent outbursts or?
No violent outbursts, but he basically didn't want to work. And this is him right here, Michael Beard. It looks like a pretty large guy, too.
Could you imagine waking up to that?
No.
Running for your life?
No.
There's no way you'd win.
Molly, Kim's daughter, which, remember, that's Kelley's sister, so that would be the niece, worked for him and Brian at ServPro. When questioned by the police, she mentioned Michael Beard and how he'd been fired for stealing from work sites, and he wasn't happy about it. Oh. At this point, they're not sure what's going on, but they wonder if Beard, could be related to the crime. He had an extensive rap sheet. He'd been charged with murdering his father in the past.
But yet he's out.
He was acquitted.
Amongst people.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he was acquitted.
He was acquitted. Police interview him, and they discover he has an alibi where he's spotted on camera buying beer. His girlfriend said that she was with him all night long except when he went to buy the beer. I've been in New Orleans. I've been in New Orleans. Molly, Kim's daughter, which is Kelley's sister, and Thomas's niece, worked for him and Brian. When questioned by the police, she mentioned Michael Beard and how he had been fired for stealing from work sites and he wasn't happy about it, sorry. At this point, they're not even sure what's going on as far as the police, but they wonder if Beard could somehow be tied to the crime. He had an extensive criminal rap sheet. He had been charged with murdering his father in the past, but he was acquitted.
So he was acquitted.
Yeah, so we can't hold that against him.
Well, because sometimes you can go on trial for murder now and found guilty, and you get out in less time than...
Yes, which is very frustrating.
And it's getting worse.
They murder other people.
Yes.
Okay, so he was acquitted for that. Police interview, and they discovered that he does have an alibi where he's spotted on camera buying beer. And his girlfriend was with him all night except for when he was buying beer. After 2 days, the case stalls. They don't know where to turn.
What do you think about people having alibis confirmed or established with loved ones?
That is a really good question because I could go either way. I think I would be like police where it's like,
right.
This is a spouse, this is the girlfriend, this is a mom. But there's also other cases where it's like, this person is innocent. And you can see the frustration on like the parents' faces or the wife's face. Like, this is impossible. This person was with me. So I've seen both where the person was innocent. They didn't do it because they found the person that did it later. And the family members were trying to tell them they were at the party the whole time, or they were with us. We watched this movie together on the couch. Like, you can see the frustration of the family members because they know the police don't believe them because they're just family.
But to flip the coin, you've also seen people that you've watched and heard about that are as guilty as sin. And parents especially. It's heartbreaking. I'm not mocking any parents. They swear they're innocent.
Yes.
Their baby couldn't do that when
Yes.
They're cold-blooded killers.
Yeah.
So
to me, let's say that you have, I think the most frustrating one was where it was like a family gathering and everybody there, cousins, uncles, aunts, the parents were like, they did not leave. They all knew they were there. And there were no cell phone records to show that they weren't not in that place, right? Mm-hmm. So it was really frustrating because this person ended up being innocent, but the police would not believe he served time he should not have served. Later, they found the actual killer. So I could see how I would feel absolutely helpless if I knew my loved one never left my sight, but the police didn't believe me. It'd be a tough one.
I remember a case, it's been a while, that he was playing basketball with his buddies, playing it. Like, he had 6 people say, but yet he was still convicted.
Yes.
I remember that case of his wife's murder.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's
true.
I think it could go either way, and I see why police don't necessarily buy what the family's saying, but I also think, if you've got a whole bunch of people like, look, this person didn't leave, maybe look somewhere else.
Yeah, it's like putting a nail into a square peg. Mm-hmm. That's not the same, but you know what I mean.
I just love how your clock keeps playing during our podcast.
I was trying to talk loud so you wouldn't hear it. But
okay. Everything stalls for about 2 days, and then a woman came in and let the police know that she'd been having an affair with Thomas. She told him that he complained about Kelley constantly.
I'm not surprised about the affair.
Yeah, I'm not either. Then Brian, his business partner, called the police, telling them what he had found. It appears that Thomas had called Brian and told him that his dad was coming to pick up a bag out of a pickup that was on the property.
I wonder if it was his dad really going to pick it up, or was it Beard? Since he was in the pickup.
I think it was the dad.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. You'd even throw your dad under the bus.
He's a poop bird. Brian thought that was kind of strange. He's like, well, why don't you come? Like, this is a little bit weird. So he goes to the truck, because remember, Kelley's been killed, right? So he's like, that's a little bit of a strange behavior. He found the bag, and in it was $100,000 and a passport. Police go back to Beard's girlfriend at this point, and they find out that he was actually gone from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. She also mentioned that he had told her that Clayton had offered to pay him $10,000 to burn the house down with his wife in it, but she didn't think he was serious, so they questioned Beard again, and he confessed. When police questioned him, he confessed that Clayton offered him $10,000 to kill his wife. He later tried to retract it, especially during the trial.
Well, lawyers have you do that, though.
And he's trying to distance himself from the crime.
Yes.
He said that he was hired to burn the house down. He had nothing to do with the murder, of course. He said that when he arrived to burn the house down, he found Kelley instead, and he ran.
Well, the evidence shows that she was asleep.
Right. And not only that, but he'd already told the police where to find the murder weapon, the house keys, and the clothes that he wore the night that his DNA was also on them. So they matched also the description little Charlie had given to the police. So they knew he was lying later on, especially during the trial. He was charged with first-degree murder and Thomas with first and second-degree murder.
As we discussed earlier.
Before our
yes.
equipment failed.
The first-degree murder and second, we're wondering if that's because, I think it is, because if the jury doesn't have enough for first degree,
he could be acquitted.
Like the Casey Anthony.
Yes, so they wanted to have that other one to where maybe they could go down to second degree.
I think that's why.
It makes sense. If anybody knows, let us know. Later, police found out from Beard he was only supposed to knock Kelley out and burn the house down with her in it. Thomas told him that the kids wouldn't be there.
And I think he knew they were there.
Absolutely, he knew. And when Michael heard the daughter screaming, he had second thoughts. He couldn't burn the house down. So I guess a killer with a conscience.
Well, yeah, so he thought he'd hit her in the face 100 times and kill her that way.
Yeah, so beat her.
So he was going to burn the house down. I guess Thomas thought the kids would be asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, because he knew the kids were there.
Yes, he did.
Because he came home, got ready to go to the poker game. The kids were there. I mean, come on.
So he thinks at this point they're probably asleep. Beard won't know that they're there.
Right.
So he's going to knock Kelley out, start the fire, right? And then no one would know any different because everybody would die in the fire.
I wonder if Beard had gloves on or if he had any marks on him.
I don't know.
If she put up a fight, DNA somewhere, I would think.
But remember, when we did the mini-series on family annihilators, Thomas Clayton's a family annihilator.
Yeah, definitely.
So he didn't want any kids to take care of. He didn't, he wanted all the money. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
Well, people like him, it's all his.
Yes.
You said he was competitive. It's his money, his home, his
had
everything.
To be signs that Kelley missed. It's like when we think back to earlier in the podcast where winning was everything for him, that he would pick fights on, and at first we're like, well, it's hockey. But to me, it's a sign. Like he maybe never was physically violent, but there had to be narcissism somewhere, which we're going to get into a little bit of that at the end to help people.
But she was very happy.
She was.
And, women tend to tell their girlfriends, their best girlfriend, everything.
And
none of her friends, none of her family, nobody.
Like, at the beginning, we talked about her sister was like, are you sure he's not having affairs because he flirted so much?
So that's different than... I'm unhappy. I'm going to get a divorce.
So was she such a confident woman that the flirting didn't bother her? See, to me, that would bother me. I would not want Mike flirting with anybody.
Well, right.
And he wouldn't want me to flirt with anybody either.
Right. It depends on her definition of flirting.
Yeah, maybe she
makes
didn't
it
care.
Sound like it was quite a bit of flirting.
It was a lot.
I mean, too much.
Yes,
so,
to get the sister's suspicions
that would
up.
Bother.
Later, they figure out that basically Thomas wanted both the wife and the kids dead. Now, here's the evidence, and it's a little bit confusing, but I'll break it down. So, several women testified at trial that they were having sex with Clayton while he and Kelley were married. One was only 15.
Oh, boy.
He often spoke bad about Kelley, saying that she was lazy and a bitch. He didn't really see Kelley as someone... Well, I didn't see Kelley as someone that was lazy. Like she worked a job.
Took care of kids.
Took care of the kids. They had their properties that they would get ready to rent. Like that just doesn't seem...
That's lazy to him.
You know what I really wondered if it was?
What? Jealousy?
I have found men like him in these cases have a high demand for sex. It makes me wonder if she was just not willing to have sex with him as much.
But that would have come.
Because she's a mom, she's got the job. I mean, she probably maybe had a healthy sex life with him. But because they seem like several times a day, a lot of these men.
That's true.
And so maybe she's like, man, I can't keep up with you. And he termed it as lazy. I don't know.
You know what I think? This is what I think. I think she was so above him in her energy. You said he was competitive. Took care of the kids.
Mm-hmm.
She went beyond what he was. You know what I mean?
Yes. Maybe he was jealous.
Yeah.
Well, and then the house didn't look bad either. Like, it looked like it was well taken care of in the crime scenes.
It did.
Now, here's the thing. He had told all the women, it seemed like he couldn't quit talking bad about her, that he couldn't divorce her because she would take everything. And then a few weeks after increasing Kelley's life insurance from $500K to $1 million, he told Kelley's niece, this is going to be the last Christmas with me around and us being together as a family, which is really weird.
That's a weird thing to tell a niece, unless you had a crush on her.
Because it's not his niece, it's Kelley's niece.
How old was she, did you say?
No, I don't know how old she was, but she was obviously young, and that was awfully stupid. I mean, how could he guarantee that she wouldn't go tell Kelley, and then why didn't she?
And it was confirmed that that was exactly what he said?
Yeah. Or did she tell her, but Kelley's like, he's just playing her. You know, it just...
But why would you say it? That's like, you may as well confess.
Right. It was really weird. So here's the thing. He was always going to have someone that he was sleeping with, right? Because he had several women. If you're someone that's sleeping with someone else's spouse and they do nothing but complain about their spouse, they've increased the life insurance policy, they say divorce is not an option, you need to get on the phone and call the spouse. And like you said before we had the technical difficulty, that Kelley may not even believe, but I can guarantee you, if someone calls and says they're sleeping with my husband, I'm definitely going to be on the lookout. I'm going to follow him.
You may not believe it, but you will be cautious.
Yes.
And the life insurance, like we discussed, back in the day, like I said, you didn't have to have the spouse there to sign.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how it is now, but I mean, who thinks of that? I wouldn't think anybody I know would say, I'm going to check my life insurance.
Right. That's not just something you think of.
No.
Yeah.
I mean.
And that's what makes this case so scary, because there were just not your usual red flags. And what really makes me mad about this case is, number one, he wanted his kids killed, and he was willing to have them witness this at the very least.
What's interesting, he had a lot of red flags after the murder.
After, yeah.
And before a little bit, but not in the marriage itself.
And no one said anything.
How long were they married?
Well, she was little. You know, she was elementary school, so maybe 8 to 10 years, if that. I'm not sure. Beard was fired 12 days before Kelley's murder, making it impossible for him to pay his rent. But Clayton referred him to different employers and bought him a bicycle. They also had frequent phone contact. Beard was familiar with the Clayton home because on September 21st, the cell phone data shows that both Beard and Clayton went to the Clayton home for a possible walkthrough. Some reports said that he sometimes did work around the house, but they're not sure if he was ever inside before then. 6 days before the murder, someone from Clayton's company called the storage facility next door and asked if the company's property was within range of the surveillance cameras. The parking lot was in range.
How dumb.
And footage the night of the murder was captured and played for the jury at trial. That is weird.
I'm going to take tips from this. So if I want to ever kill anybody or do a crime, I'm going to call all the buildings around there. Because that's something everybody does.
That's not suspicious at all. Right.
What idiots.
Yeah, I would want to know too. Well, he also called an inn in Elmira that's next to, or close to the crime scene.
Of course he did.
To see if there were surveillance cameras outside that as well. The acquaintance that he called wasn't aware of any, but he said he'd check on it, and Clayton's like, oh no, don't worry about it.
You may as well go the whole way. Just ask. Don't say don't worry about it. That's not suspicious.
Or maybe you could drive by in someone else's car and see if they're, I don't know. That would be just as dumb too.
He should have just put on a glow-in-the-dark suit with all the things that the guy did. How stupid, I swear.
Well, okay, I thought maybe it was tied to the vehicles, though. So on the night of the murder, Clayton drove one of the company's trucks to the poker game instead of his own. Surveillance shows Clayton in a company truck and someone else in a maroon truck leaving the parking lot. Cell phone data showed both Clayton and Beard were at the parking lot at the same time. So we know Clayton was in the company truck, Beard was in the maroon truck that was Thomas Clayton's.
So if you wanted to frame someone for stealing your truck,
make sure you're there on the scene with them.
Why would you be at the same place?
Right.
You may as well drive the truck. I mean, that's just so stupid.
So at first I thought maybe he wanted Michael Beard on the camera so he could say, that he stole his truck.
That he stole the truck.
He probably went to, kill his wife afterwards, which we talked about that. I cannot think of a single crime where anyone stole someone's vehicle and then drove to their house and killed their spouse. Like, I can't think of a single one. If anyone finds one, let us know. I don't know of a single one.
Well, wait, you forgot something. Not only did you steal a truck to go commit the murder of the person you stole the truck from, why would you steal the truck since you're at the murder house? But first, before you kill that person, you're going to go meet the spouse
to get the keys and borrow the pickup
and visit, and then go and kill.
A good idea before you hire anyone to kill anyone, maybe you should make sure that the hired killer has a vehicle.
Right, he had a bike, new bike.
Seriously, criminals are not smart. They're lucky.
But this is dumb. This is really dumb.
It's really dumb. So obviously, my assumptions that he was wanting to get Michael Beard on surveillance so he could say he stole the vehicle that's too far-fetched. I think he wanted the truck for the GPS because remember, he used that later. Beard picked up a witness. That's always smart too when you're going to commit a murder, in that maroon truck and drove to the outskirts of Corning before pulling the truck over to the side of the road. The witness, or lookout, stayed in the truck while Beard took something out of the bed of the truck. He walked off. He returned about 15 minutes later, breathless, sweating, and carrying a stick. Beard heads back to Elmira with the lookout and stopped on the way and threw the stick off the side of the road. A little bit further down, they came to a bridge near water. He slowed the truck while he threw a bag of clothes into the water. Surveillance then shows the truck returning to the company's parking lot at 12:55 a.m. And then a few minutes later, someone rode off on a bicycle.
He's a genius.
I
mean, I would throw a murder weapon right there on the side too,
and don't forget
so
the
someone
witness
could find it. And
that saw you do it.
Wouldn't you bury it, hide it, put it in a trash can?
No, you're gonna have an audience and you're gonna do it on the side.
Oh, you're killing me.
Later, Clayton told investigators, well, you know where I am because my vehicle had GPS on it. So I'm thinking probably his personal truck did not. So he wanted to make sure that everybody knew he was at the poker game. A few weeks later, investigators found the bag in a swampy area about 40 feet from the inn in Elmira that someone had, again, called to see if it had surveillance cameras. And then the state summarized that the bicycle and the $10,000 was murder for hire, and that Clayton provided the logistical support needed to carry out the crime, plus plenty of evidence was around those two things to convict and uphold the conviction on subsequent appeals. Even more telling was the fact that after Beard bought some beer, he turned off his cell phone during Kelley's murder and then turned it back on shortly after, because that wouldn't be suspicious at all.
No, especially if you've had your phone on your whole life and then during the murder you turn it off. That's what I do.
Oh, yeah. I always like to make sure I turn it off before I commit criminal activities. Police believe the Clayton call made at 10:53 using Linda Miller's phone was a trigger to the murder. Both Beard and Clayton were convicted. They're serving life sentences without any possibility of parole. At sentencing, little Charlie wrote a letter to the court, which was read out loud and said, quote, I feel my dad is a coward because he asked Michael Beard to kill my mom.
How old is she now?
I don't know.
I just wonder what she's doing in life, the problems or no problems.
Yeah. So what I want to do is I want to finish this episode because, again, we want to help people recognize stuff like this. So I teach people lie detection, and you're about to hear a very, very common tactic, okay? So this is part of the testimony, and Thomas is asked about the phone call he made at 10:53. So he says, where were you on the night of, the murder? He said, at a poker game with my friends at Miller's house. Did you make any poker Did you make any calls while you were at the game? I don't believe my phone records would show any calls made by me that night.
Which is a very odd thing to say.
This is what's called semantics. When you ask a yes or no question, did you make any calls? If the person cannot say yes or no, and they use semantics like that, like Ted Bundy did that.
Yeah.
Like you can see in the court, he would play with words. If they can't say yes or no and they go, well, or they go into this type of language, you know there's deception there. So the most famous case I can think of is Bill Clinton. He gets on TV, right? And he says, I did not have sexual relations with that woman, Monica Lewinsky, right?
Right.
If you watch his depositions, which you can find on YouTube, they ask, did you ever have sex or sexual relations with Monica Lewinsky? He's like, well, please define sex.
Oh, yeah, I remember that. Each time he talked, it was less, and finally, yes.
So it's like, okay, do you not know what sex means?
But, not defending him because everyone knows what he did, but people that have affairs, because I have heard it before, unless it's not the sexual act, the actual
They'll
act,
dismiss it
they
as sex.
think it's not an affair.
Yes. Yeah. So this is semantics. He's going to his phone records when everybody knows he made a phone call. So if he would have said no, he'd be in a lie because of the testimony of the Millers.
Yes.
Right. But if he said yes, then everybody knows he called the killer. So he was between a rock and a hard place. Now, here's testimony from Linda Miller. It's the one that he used her phone. Thomas was at your home playing cards that night. He was. It was typical. They played every Monday night. Did anything out of the ordinary happen during the game? Not really, except Thomas asked to use my phone. Did you let him? Of course. Why was that out of the ordinary? Well, I had seen him check his iPhone just a few minutes before he asked me to use the phone. Who did he call? My records indicated that he called Michael Beard. He worked with Thomas. So she didn't know, but then there's records that show who he called. And then finally, testimony from Michael Beard. Were you responsible for the death of Kelley Clayton? Partly, but I had no choice. Thomas put me in a bad way. Oh, yeah, you had no choice to go beat somebody's head in.
With their kids there.
Yeah. What did you do on the night of Kelley's death? Earlier in the evening, I stopped to pick up my friend Mark Blandford. He didn't know nothing about nothing except he was going to be a lookout. I pulled up close to the Clayton home around midnight, and I slipped in quietly through the garage using a key that Thomas gave to me. I also grabbed an axe that had the head broke off. I went in and finished the job I was paid to do. How much were you paid by Thomas? 10 large. Excuse me? $10,000. So after the crime, the kids went and lived with Kim. So Beard and Clayton are still serving out their sentences. And this was a tough one because, we always want to offer something helpful. And I do have a couple things on that, but there was nothing.
There was more flags after the murder.
Yeah, he hid everything really well.
Like I told you, I think he was jealous of her. Mm-hmm. I mean, he said like she said that she was lazy, but maybe, like when you hire someone, your 100% is somebody else's 100% is 50%.
Right.
So she might have
outshined
him.
Yeah. I don't, and the fact that he says she complained all the time, I don't know if she did or not. She didn't seem like that type of personality, but maybe, she might have been a tough personality and maybe she, did complain, but she seemed very, very happy.
Yes,
and
I
so
was
did he.
Say, no relatives knew, no complaints, and women complained.
Yes, and he had everyone fooled. But here's the thing. Someone always knows if someone's having an affair. So here's what I would say. And, his business partner knew about him. And I would encourage people, don't be silent. Because money and love, air quote love, because I don't think it's true love.
I don't.
are two of the oldest motives in the world, and I really wish that his business partner would have said something to her.
Oh, I bet he regrets it. Wouldn't you?
Yes, I would. But I also see that would be a weird situation you would be put in because it's a marital affair. I would feel so awkward. Like, how do you go and tell someone your husband has been sleeping around this whole time? You'd have to see the broken heart, or maybe they would deny it, and then all of a sudden they're mad at you.
If you know they're having an affair, he probably didn't think in a million years it would go this far to murder.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he probably just didn't want to be involved.
So this is a testimony from a friend and coworker of Kelley. Her name is Abby Tipton. She said on February 22nd, 2016, she received a call from Thomas Clayton who asked how she was doing. Tipton said she replied by asking if he didn't do it, why would Mike Beard do it? In other words, there's no reason for Michael Beard to kill her.
Exactly.
She told the jury Clayton responded that Beard had called him that day seeking money. According to Tipton, he said he told Beard he didn't have any money on him, that it was all in his home, and that he wouldn't be home that evening. She said he went on to say that he could have never killed his wife, saying he doted on her and talking about all the money he spent on her.
Yeah, but his statement, it isn't, I don't have it on me. It's in my home.
Right.
I won't be home tonight.
And she's telling, he's telling Abby this.
Yeah, that's.
Tipton said later in the year she attended a concert in Buffalo and afterward went to a nearby bar with a friend, which was another friend of Kelley's. She said the two found themselves face to face with Thomas Clayton and a group of people with him. While she said she tried to avoid a confrontation, at one point, Clayton leaned over to her and told her that Kelley had a boyfriend, which was a lie. She pushed him away and avoided him completely after that. So now we also have, in hindsight, where he's trying to set up Beard, right, as the one that did it and also smear Kelley's reputation. But money was his motive. You can see it everywhere.
And he didn't even get that much.
So he's like, I've put too much money into her. I've spent too much money on her. There's no way I'd have her killed. Well, yeah, he had to get his return on, air quote, investment, right? So he increases her life insurance policy to pay him back for all the money that he spent on her.
And he had a bag of money and his passport.
A poop bird.
That's putting it mildly. And do you just carry your passport around with $100,000 in it?
Right.
Ugh.
This case is interesting and it's difficult because there were no signs of abuse. He seemed like a loving husband. He was intentional in his attention and affection. But again, we do have the business partner. I wish he would have said something. Now, what I've done is I have pulled up because I was curious, like what type of person he was, because I think he was a narcissist. And I discovered the term covert narcissist.
I never heard that before.
I hadn't either. And so these are the ones that they're narcissists, but they are not as blatant. They're not as overt in their narcissism. And these men, they have like shells, they wear a mask and they can seem maybe standoffish. They can seem a little bit cold, but the closet narcissists, they are better able to hide. And so they do tend, however, to be emotionally damaged and passionless. So I wonder if that was there. And like sex can start out steamy and they do tend to love bomb. They'll do that for sure. But then they'll end up making you feel like having sex with them is a favor to you.
I see that 100%.
Yeah, like it's not an exchange between people that love each other.
I wonder if how his childhood was.
I don't know. So here's 7 traits of a clinical covert narcissist husband. They will be heavily passive aggressive, okay, where a blatant may feign interest in their woman's desires and stuff, but with these, they don't. And like they'll forget their wife's weekend work trip or accidentally plan a fishing trip, like things that you think are maybe like little forgotten things, actually it's a form of punishment. So that's important. Also, you'll hear terms like he's nice and helpful. So people will think that being helpful means he's a good spouse.
That's true.
So they'll do it for show when actually there's withering contempt. And, you know, they're just doing it so they look good, not to actually be helpful. He's withholding and resentful. Wives are often confused that their covert husbands can be so helpful and then so resentful at the same time. So he won't ask you to do anything for him, but he will resent you for not doing it. And asking for help is loading your gun. So he substitutes superficial niceness in place of genuine honesty and emotional involvement and engagement. Number 4 is impeccable hypersensitivity. They will take offense to criticism, real or imagined. So, like you said, maybe he was jealous of her. He called her lazy. He would smear her reputation. I'm wondering if that was the case, because she did seem like a firecracker, and she would let know what she thought. Yeah. Number 5, don't look for outward supreme self-possession. The smugness and superiority is hidden, so you don't see that. With a blatant narcissist, you do. Now, they do crave attention and they demand approval. They're very sensitive, but it's harder to spot than someone who is an overt narcissist. They also have utter and complete self-absorption. So it's sometimes easy to confuse a covert narcissist husband with a garden variety introvert. Here's the essential difference. Introverts may be quiet, but they're fully capable of bestowing attention and paying careful attention. They can love freely. They ask good questions. A covert narcissist husband, in contrast, is reliably a poor listener. They want you to listen to them with the full attention. Right. But when you try to talk about them, no. And the final one is vitamin E deficit. All clinical narcissists have a lack of empathy for others and a sense of entitlement. So here you have these kids, his own flesh and blood, that he was going to have burn in a fire, one of the worst ways to die.
Alive.
I would say that's a vitamin E deficit.
Oh, you know, these 7 steps could be so many people that you even know. Where you think they're normal.
Yeah. Yeah. So a closet or covert narcissist is not as blatant as a full-on narcissist, but I wanted to give those traits so that people, you know, I don't want anybody to say, oh my gosh, my husband's a narcissist, he's going to kill me. I don't want that. But I do want, if you're dating someone, if you do suspect maybe there's something weird going on in the marriage, just ask questions.
It's sort of weird, the word they use, covert.
Yeah, they hide it. Like, talk to their coworkers, talk to their business partners, find out. Don't dismiss gut feelings, because our guts are very, very tuned to what's going on.
Coworkers and family are just human. They might not see it either.
But if you've got a business partner, to me, you spend more time with coworkers in certain jobs than you do your own family.
That's true.
And if he is messing around and he feels, or she feels, more comfortable in a work setting, if there's going to be anywhere it's going to maybe come out, it'll be there. And I would ask questions.
That is true. It's just such a shame.
It is. So that concludes episode 2. What do you think? Crazy, huh?
That is crazy. It's interesting, no red flags except before the murder, and not even red flags with her.
Yeah, she had no idea.
Everywhere else.
She had
all
no
those
idea.
Mistakes, it's crazy.
And it makes you wonder, when she was being chased through her house in the dark, it makes you wonder, did she ever think it was him? Probably not.
No.
She probably thought it was a stranger that, entered their home and was killing her.
I wonder if she met him.
Well, he had done some work around the house, so maybe so.
Because I'm sure he went there to kill her.
Right.
So he probably didn't have a mask on.
Maybe.
I would imagine.
I don't know if he did or not.
Because when the little girl was so exact on what she saw, I would think she'd say.
He might have been wearing something, because she only saw his eyes.
That could be because it's dark, but it's true.
I think
he might have had
he
something
was
on.
wearing a mask, if
Yeah.
I remember the story. But yeah, he did not want to be seen. So she may not have even known it was Michael Beard if she saw him around
Sad,
working.
very sad.
It is.
This park was meaningful to all of you growing up, right?
Absolutely. Kelley spent a lot of time here in her youth, as did I. Kelley would also bring her children here. Forever loved and missed, as bright as the sun, Kelley E. Stage, 8180-929-15.
Do you come here much?
Yes, when I feel I have to. When I feel I have to, it's a good place. It's something to hold on to.
I feel comfort, and I bring them here on her birthday.
At my mommy's bench.
Mommy's bench. And if someone is sitting here,
someone's
someone's on mommy's bench.
Yes.
We come here for Mother's Day. We just came here on the anniversary. And as you can see, people leave flowers.
And you have something on your actual arm. What does that say? I love you.
More than words, Kelley.
And this is her signature?
The whole thing is.
Yeah, and
Yes.
it came off a birthday card.
And it did. It came off of a card to me.
And you just look at this and
I
think
do. That comforts me. This comforts me. It does.
Because it's her words.
Mm-hmm. It's her words.
Kelley and I had always wanted to do matching sister tattoos. Unfortunately, ran out of time. So I had logged into Pinterest and had realized that my sister had sent me a message. And there was a picture of a small infinity sister tattoo. And I thought, that's it. That's what I need to get. So I sent it to a tattoo artist, and I also wanted to add her signature from my last birthday card to it. It was much bigger than I had thought. So it's Forever Sisters, and then Love Always Kelley.
And her signature once again.
Yes, it is.
And you said when you look at this, you smile.
I do smile, because when I sat there in the chair after he drew this on me, I thought, wow, that's really big. And I swore I heard my sister say, just do it. And I did. And so every time I look at it, I'm like, wow, that's a really big tattoo.
Wow.
But she was a really big part of my life. It's a really good reminder of what used to be.
Outline of a Murder is a Mr. Joseph production. What do you think, Joseph?